There we go. All righty. Hello, everybody. Welcome back if you have come and been with us before, and welcome for the first time if this is your first Wellbeing Wednesday. So if you haven't been with us before, this is the monthly segment that shows childcare providers and caregivers like yourself simple ways to support your own well-being, because taking care of ourselves really is taking care of others. Whether you're an early childhood educator and a director, a parent, someone who just feels like a parent some days, which is definitely me at times, you're sure to pick up tidbits of actionable advice about how to support your overall well-being and get back to feeling like yourself. So I'm your host, Susanna Creed with Be Well, Care Well, Arkansas, a curricular concept program that is all about supporting the well-being of our childcare providers. And we have Joseph here, and we will get into introducing him in just a moment. So he is our very special guest today. So we hope that you all are coming back and coming to this episode today on this Wednesday, having had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there, and that you're ready for the rest of this holiday season or feeling as ready as you can. So this month we're going to be focusing on what we're calling financial fitness. So thinking about our physical fitness, but for our finances. So just like with fitness, we need to strengthen our muscles, incorporate appropriate amounts of rest, and practice movements repeatedly for our bodies to become stronger and healthier. Similarly, we also need to flex our money management muscles, practice our financial skills repeatedly, and incorporate appropriate amounts of rest and patience to become stronger in our financial knowledge, skills, and ability. So without further ado, today we have Joseph Botwinick, a financial coach who has personally built his financial fitness over the past several years, is joining us to share a couple of actions we can practice to become more confident in our finances. So thank you so much for joining us today, Joseph. And I want to just kind of start with, since we're in the holiday season, what do you think is maybe one or two things that people can do during this holiday season that can keep spending and debt down? It's kind of hard, especially if we love through gifts. So what either personal experience or professional experience do you have on that? And we can kind of just start the conversation there.
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. The few things that have really worked well for my family is we just come up with a budget of what we're going to spend for each person, and we stick to that budget. And, that's just something you can do right away, right now. Okay. Throughout the year, one thing that's been really effective for me is starting what we call a sinking fund inside that budget, which is where we come up with how much do we want to spend for each person. And then basically I just divide it by 12 months and I make it a budget item within the budget. So we're just saving a little bit at a time throughout the year. And therefore it doesn't catch us off guard. We don't have to reach into the wallet and grab a credit card or any of that nonsense, because that is ultimately my biggest goal, is to keep people away from credit cards, keep people away from debt, and keep people away from financial slavery.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about what a sinking fund is? Like, the first thing that came to my mind is like an emergency fund. So like, you hear, I feel like we're, saving up for a year's salary or something if you suddenly lost your job, but maybe I'm misunderstanding. Is that, what is a sinking fund?
Well, a sinking fund is a little bit different than an emergency fund. An emergency fund is for emergencies. Your car breaks down, you lose your job, have a medical emergency or something like that. A sinking fund is kind of a short-term savings where Christmas is going to come the same time every year. It's in December. Okay, it's coming up. Figure out how much do you want to spend total, divide it by 12 months, and then make it a regularly monthly budget item to where you're saving a little bit over time. And therefore, when you get to December, you got it saved up. You don't have to pay for it out of credit card. Just pull out the cash, the debit card, and buy it, and you're done.
So I'm looking down because now I'm calculating. So for instance, if I look at, and we can even start now, right? If anybody started buying holiday gifts, look at how much you've already spent. Like, and then take that total and then divide that by 12. So I just picked an arbitrary number, and I picked $300. Say I want to spend $300 total on all my gifts for family, friends, for myself, whatever. And if I divide that by 12, that's $25 a month.
That's right.
That's actually pretty reasonable. And I like that you differentiated between an emergency fund and a sinking fund. So, and also kind of how to, especially for any of you all watching, I know we have the teacher heart, we have the giving heart. It's a lot of us really just love to love on our kiddos and shower our kiddos with so much. This came up last year when we talked about finances as well. It was like, I just want to love on them so much. And so you can do that in a way that is also protecting yourself. So if you want to spend $600 because you just want to be able to shower your kiddos, divide that by 12. And actually that's $50 a month. So that's pretty doable depending on the circumstances. But again, if using that money towards giving to others is kind of how you show love and that's really important to you, you can. And that's just how you can prioritize it and make it more manageable for sure. And also for anybody who's watching, please feel free to type questions, comments, aha moments into the chat. We'd love to hear from you all about that. Somebody said I set up a Christmas club account at my bank, $15 a week came out of my checking account. In November, I got a check for Christmas expenses. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, you're set. You are set for Christmas this year. I love that. And Joseph, I'm wondering too, because we've all gone through rough patches, right? Where the idea of even putting $25 away a month is like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. It's a struggling time right now. If that's the case, and we're really strapped for cash, what is maybe the one thing that that extra we should make sure to save for? Like, would it be for an emergency fund if we don't have one? Would it be, paying off credit card debt? Would it be, like just making sure the bills are paid? And that's kind of all we can do right now. So especially if somebody's really strapped, or they're maybe starting this financial journey or have come off of, say a pandemic year, what is maybe the top one or two things that if there is any extra funds, those can or should go to first?
I love that question. Thank you so much for asking that. It's probably about 8 years ago or so, my family was living paycheck to paycheck, and it was a very stressful time in our lives. There are days it just seemed really hopeless, and research shows that somewhere around 85% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and don't even have $400 in the bank to cover an emergency. Yep. If you can just imagine that, it's just mind-boggling how scary that can be. And, paycheck to paycheck just basically means, whenever you get paid, it's immediately going to the bills, to pay the light bill, to pay the mortgage, pay car payment. And, I can remember there were times when my wife and I, we knew that the bill was coming out Friday and the paycheck was hitting the bank Friday, and we had like $25 in the bank. Okay. And so we were on our knees praying to God that the paycheck would hit the bank before the bill. So I know exactly what that's like. The most important thing that you want to really take care of to kind of keep Murphy at bay is to have $1,000 saved up. Okay. Go sell something, take an extra job, do whatever it takes, cut the budget, take out all extras. And this is what we did. We went pretty scorched earth about it. Get $1,000 in the bank. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make you feel better than you should. Okay. $1,000 isn't going to take care of major emergencies. Okay. But it will take care of most minor emergencies. You get a flat tire, you get an alternator.
Yep.
You get something like that, you're going to be okay. And it's going to keep you from reaching in more times than not to that wallet and pulling out that credit card, which you don't want to do. The second thing that you want to do once you get that $1,000 emergency fund is just go scorched earth, sell stuff, keep selling stuff, keep cutting the spending, take that second, third. I did 4 jobs when I was getting out of debt, and I used what is called, and this is something that Dave Ramsey teaches. I use what is called the baby steps, which the second baby step is to do the debt snowball. Basically, you list your debts from smallest balance to largest balance, and then you attack that smallest balance first with all extra money. And I know a lot of people hear about the avalanche method, which is where you attack the largest and then go down. Okay. And mathematically, that works. Okay. Mathematically, it's probably even better. But the problem with the avalanche, in my opinion, is that it takes so long to get that first debt paid off. You run out of steam. Emotionally, you just give up. Okay. For us, when I paid off that first debt and I saw all this extra money that I could then throw on to the next debt, it gave me a lot of excitement and made me want to really stick it out. And we paid off about $40,000 in debt in 2.5 years, which is pretty good. We were living at that time on about $50,000 salary. Okay, so you can imagine that's about what, $20,000 we were paying per year. Okay, so it just really gave us a lot of momentum and kept us going to get us out of debt really quick.
Yeah, I love how you explained it, because I feel like there's so many thoughts in my head right now, and I'm just like, because it sparked a whole bunch of things. Because one, with Be Well, Care Well, we're all about building on our successes, starting small so we feel successful. And then once it feels like, okay, I've kind of got that under my belt and it's more of a habit, okay, now let's add another thing. So it's all about kind of starting and using that positive reinforcement. And I feel like, especially for finances, it can feel so overwhelming, and it can feel, especially just depending on coming out of COVID, if people own their own, pre-Ks or daycare centers or, early childhood education centers, they're also dealing with keeping a roof over their babies' heads, and keeping their people employed. So it can feel like, how am I going to do this? So the small steps and having some of those smaller things, wiped off initially does help to keep that momentum going, like you said. But like you said, also, some people prefer that avalanche method. And I love that both of those are valid. It just kind of depends on the person and what's going to work best for you. And then you also talked about too, kind of the first and the second piece, which is, if you're really not sure where to start and it's super overwhelming, start by getting $1,000 in the bank. Because that, I can't tell you how many times I used to work with college students where they would get a flat tire and then they couldn't go to work, which meant they lost their job. And then they couldn't continue in school, which meant they lost their scholarships because they couldn't get to school as much. And it just snowballs from there because of a $200 flat tire. And so getting, first, it's like, okay, get $1,000 to have that. So one thing isn't going to break you and you can keep going. And then, okay, what's next? And obviously this is a simplification of it. There's way more things that go into individuals' experiences, but I really like those two for sure. So, yeah, are there any other, and also, again, for those of you who are watching with us, feel free to share your questions or your comments to anything that we're talking about. If you have questions for Joseph, this is definitely a good time. So we talked about budget. We talked about kind of the order of operations of getting that $1,000 in the bank as a cushion, attacking the debt. Anything else for the holidays that you think is beneficial to keep in mind financially, whether it's during the holidays or leading up to it?
I don't know. I love, for me, a few things that really works great for me. I love to buy another thing I really love to do is buy gifts for the next year,
Mm-hmm.
right after Christmas, when they're selling
That's
everything
right.
75% off. It's
Uh-huh.
crazy. So even if you're doing those sinking funds, and that sinking fund can take you even further right after Christmas if you can plan it that way. But be aware of marketing techniques that basically say limited time only is the greatest deal ever. Okay. Um, my my philosophy is you didn't save 50%, you spent that money. Okay. Um, and so don't allow them to sucker you into you've got to do it now. Okay, because that when people get in a hurry, that's when they're going to lose their money right there. And so slow
That's
down.
my Achilles heel. That's my Achilles heel. I'm like, oh, it's a sale. Oh, it's a sale. Oh, it's a sale.
Yeah, just slow down, think it through. I promise you, especially with the way the economy is right now, there's going to be more sales, and they're probably going to go lower on the price the longer you
That's a good point. Something that I did recently, I actually learned this from a family member, and it goes to the idea of buying gifts ahead of time. It's not for this year, but I'm thinking ahead. She had made homemade vanilla extract with
wait.
no sugar. She just got a bunch of vanilla bean pods, like in bulk on
Hmm.
Amazon,
Yep.
cut them in half, split them open, put like 2 or 3 in these little bottles, these 5-ounce bottles. And you fill it either with vodka or bourbon or some sort of alcohol because it has to extract. So that's the only reason I'm saying the alcohol piece. But there's no added sugar. It's pure vanilla extract. And you have to let it sit for at least 4 months, but you
Hmm.
can let it sit for longer. So I was able to buy a bulk piece of like 24 of these bottles and a bunch of the vanilla bean pods. And I'm going to start those this year, but then I'm ready to go with those next year because it's
Yep.
going to natural. So it's like I can't give them out now. So I'm investing now for that. And I was able to do a bulk thing. But if anybody's looking for a super quick, super easy homemade gift, that's a really good one as well. So
And that really kind of brings to mind two other things real quick. And
yeah,
I'm actually
yeah,
coming to a point where I'm going to have to leave. I'm actually a teacher also, so I've got a class coming up. But I
we
wanted to
know that
throw
life.
this in. I wanted to throw this in there in there as well. A lot of parents, and I know we did, when our son was really young, we got to buy him something real expensive. We had
Mhm.
relatives that would buy him, $200-300 toys when he was a really, really small kid. And we went to Dollar General one year and bought him a teddy bear for like $1.50. And that was like the toy he loved the most. Okay.
Mhm.
Little kids, especially, it's not how much you spend on them that really matters as much. Okay. That they
Mhm.
love the simple things. But that also brings me around to my last point. A
Mhm.
lot of times, you know what they really want more than that toy, more than that game, more than anything? They want you.
Yeah.
Just give them more of you. And they will cherish that more than you ever.
Yeah. Oh, such a good point. I love that it's, from teacher to teacher on that. It just being with them. And I mean, when we think about our early childhood experiences, it's not necessarily what we got, but it's the moments we got hugs and the rocks and going on experiences with people. So I love that you shared that. And I know you got to hop into a class. I'm able to stay on if anybody has any questions or if we want to kind of go back and forth. And also, if there's any questions that I can't answer, I can connect you with Joseph as well. We'll also share Joseph's contact information and we'll share that in the chat box. And also, he has offered if people want a one on one coaching session for free. If you would like to do that, I will also link his calendar link because he's really tech savvy, which is awesome. So you can look at his calendar and you can schedule a one-on-one time if you want to learn more, kind of talk through any of these things as well. So, but thank you
All
so
right.
much, Joseph, for joining us today. And I'll let you go and have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And yeah, if anybody wants to stay on, if you have questions, like I said, I am more than happy to share those with Joseph as well. So now we're just really going to get into a Q&A here. I haven't been able to check the chat as much, so I'm excited about this. All right, I budget monthly for birthday and holiday gifts. It makes it much easier when it is time to purchase the gifts. Yes, absolutely. Especially, I know this person and gifts are very important to her. And so the fact that that's a priority throughout the year also really helps in regards to decreasing stress in the holidays, because we know a lot of times the holidays are wonderful and they can also be stressful. So if you can decrease that stress throughout the year, that's a great way to go about it. Okay. What better gift to give yourself and your family? Freedom from financial debt. Absolutely. That is a very wonderful thing. You know, we often don't want somebody else to put themselves in debt or in a situation that's not beneficial to them for us. You know, there's something to be said for giving, but if it's at a detriment for themselves, you know, if somebody asked us, would you want me to do that? We'd probably say no, but yet we do that for others a lot of times. So it's finding ways that work with your personality, what's important to you, and your own financial situation. You know, like I said, I love the idea of DIY and homemade gifts, but I made the mistake several years ago. I was like, I'm going to DIY all of them. I'm creative in this, but I didn't get creative inspiration until maybe a couple weeks before. And when I was trying to do all of these individualized homemade gifts, it became so much of a time crunch, and it ended up actually being more expensive because I was individualizing it so much. And I was like, okay, this was way too stressful and way more expensive than if I had just bought them something else. So how can I do this smarter? And that's why I shared about, you know, what I'm doing. I learned from a family member of, for next year, I have 24 vanilla, and I'm also going to do, I think, cinnamon. So you could get cinnamon sticks, you could do cinnamon extract. How often do people have cinnamon extract? So that could be really unique. And you can kind of play with the different types and then maybe have some for yourself too. But that'll have it sit there for a whole year. I'm not going to be having to make all of these at the same time. All at the end of the year, they're going to be ready to go. And that's going to help me feel more in the giving spirit. That's going to help me feel just, I can actually be in the moment of giving to this person, whoever I'm giving it to, because I'm not stressed because I have to make 10 more or why am I giving one away when I still need so many more for people? So that's something that has been helpful for me to think of, at least. I'd love to hear if anybody else has any other tips or anything that you do to kind of help keep your finances where you want them to during the Christmas and holiday season. Again, if you like to DIY, y'all share that in the chat. I would love to see any of your favorite DIY or hear about any of your favorite DIY gifts. If you know, we already heard about the Christmas fund, you know, which is something we talked about last year. So this person just got a check ready to go for the holidays. And that's really awesome. Just the idea of paying yourself. So yeah, I'd love to just hear if anybody has any comments. We have a couple more minutes, and so we can see if any other amazing ideas come out of that and kind of share together if there's other ways that can be useful too. So I'll give y'all a couple of extra moments here, because I know sometimes when we go to chat, it takes a little while. So if y'all want, feel free to sound off in the comments here, and I will give y'all a few moments while we hydrate, because water is important. I'll try to think about some other easy DIY stuff that I've done. Bulk, buy in bulk. I did the, what was it, cookie in a jar sort of recipe once, and I made it different for each individual person, which meant I had so much extra of each ingredient. But what I can do is say, okay, I'm going to make snickerdoodle, cookies, and I'm going to get the ingredients for snickerdoodles, and I'm going to make several. And so then, I still give it to people and I can customize the tags if I want to, but I'm not slaving so much over each individual one. So I can actually enjoy the gift giving piece. Oh, DIY body scrubs was also shared. Yeah. Sometimes you got to measure with the heart. That's what I heard from somebody else one time. Yes, and I can see if I can share recipes as well. Let me see if I can find something for y'all. Oh, here's one. It's not the sugar scrub, but this one is a vanilla extract one. And then let's see here. We have DIY. Oh, here we go. 98 DIY Christmas gifts. I'm just going to share this with everybody in the chat here. So if you want to pick any of those, please feel free to do so and let us know how that goes for sure. Okay, that one went through. Yeah, the one thing about body scrubs that's really awesome and for gifts is you can easily customize with either you can put pure lavender seeds in them, which kind of add an extra exfoliant to them. And also it adds the calming scent of lavender, so you get some natural aromatherapy. If you're into essential oils, you can do that as well and customize that for people. So you make the bigger pieces and then you customize with the different scents based on the person, if that's something that you're interested in. And again, just to kind of, as we're getting close to the end here, just to reiterate some of the other things outside of DIY gifts that Joseph mentioned was, if you're not sure where to start by putting whatever extra funds there are that you have, so that you have about $1,000 in the bank as a cushion. That what that does is if, the paycheck comes late for whatever reason, the car has a flat tire, like we had mentioned, it's not going to put you so far back that you're not going to be able to continue your daily life and continue going to work or school, different things like that. So first, putting that extra funds towards $1,000 in the bank. Then after that, attacking the debt and putting extra money. You keep that $1,000 in the bank. So if you do use, $200, you work again to get it back up to 1,000. And then you look at the debts that you have. You can either do smallest to largest amount of debt or largest to smallest. Smallest to largest is the snowball. So you kind of get the benefit of little wins as you go along. So it's not quite so draining at times. You kind of be like, okay, I paid this one off. Now I paid this one off. And you work up to that biggest one. Or the reverse is the avalanche, if you want to tackle the biggest debt first and then work your way down to the smallest. Either one of those can work. And just remember that with finances, just like with physical fitness, a lot of times it's going to be, how do I say it? We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if you feel frustrated. It's okay if things aren't perfect right away. Keep going. As you continue, just like with any new, exercise, your muscles are going to get stronger. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more confident. It's going to become more coordinated. And eventually it's going to end up changing your life just from continuing to do these small things and give yourself some grace. It's okay if we're not perfect. It's okay. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then you'll be able to look back by this time next year and be like, oh, wow, look, I did do X, Y, Z, whatever that is. So Anyways, with that, we are going to wrap up this Wellbeing Wednesday. Thank you all so much for joining us today. As always, it's my greatest pleasure just to be here. If you are interested in learning more about either curricular concepts or Be Well, Care Well, information about that is in the chat. Joseph's information and email. And if you want to set up that one-on-one free financial session with him, you can do that as well. So please feel free to check that out. Share the comment on this, share it with your friends, coworkers, whoever you think might benefit from it. And we will be back next month. I believe it is January 4th. So I hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday season. I'm your host, Susanna Krieg, wishing you well. Bye, everyone.